Tribe, today we were sitting down with Dylan. He's got an awesome story. He's got a huge milestone coming up, and we're just kind of and he's doing amazing things for the community as well too. So we figured we'd bring him on here and have him tell a little bit about his story and support his project, the Lefty Cycles Project. And we're going to dive into all of that. But I want to say first, we have never officially met, have we?
No, not face to face. It's all been like cross inspiration on social media.
Yeah, people that I know people that you know, and somehow we ended up, just doing what we do, both sending a good positive message out.
We're
trying to help support communities and also kind of give inspiration and hope, exactly what Lefty Cycles is about, inspiration and hope to people to get out of whatever situation they're in.
Absolutely.
And find meaning in life and stuff like that. So I was like, I got to have you on here. I gotta talk about your project. And at the same time, you have, 2 weeks out or 1 week out, week and a half out?
Yeah, we're a week and a half out from Ironman. So that's July 25th.
Oh, so did you do like an Ironman last year by yourself? Because
I did. COVID canceled it, and if we remind, it was an end of July race. But if we go back to April, there was so much end of March, April. There was so much question on what was going to happen. Is Ironman going to hold the race? And not knowing really through my life in turmoil, where I'm like, okay, do I train today? Or do I not train the day? And you're looking at like a 4-hour soul-depriving trainer basement ride, and you're like, well, it may not happen. So I cut back for like 3 weeks on all my training. And then they announced that it's canceled, and I took like a deep breath and was like, no, like, now what? Like, that was the carrot that I was dangling in front of me, like, it's been like a 3-year dream to do it since I first learned about triathlons, and I felt like I was going to be able to do it. So we still had the Airbnb in upstate New York at Saranac Lake, and I went up with my wife, my daughter, my cousins, and set out and did it on my own.
That's insane to do an Ironman. So give everyone who doesn't know exactly what an Ironman, give them the mileage and exactly what it is.
So the Ironman is a swim, bike, run. A 3-part course. You do it in just that order. 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride to finish it up with a 26.2-mile run. So a complete marathon after all that. And
that's the thing that I'd be good with the swim. I'd be good with the bike. I'd probably be already at like 12 hours at that time. Actually, no, I'd probably be like 16. Realistically, I'd probably be at like 16 hours. Oh, what am I thinking? 12 hours? Hell no. I'd be at like 16 hours by that time. And then when the marathon comes, no way. That's the thing. That's the kicker, man. But
yeah, it's brutal. And when I first started this journey, I didn't even like running. So about 7 years ago was my first 5K. And I think I finished it in about 45 minutes. And just loved every minute of it. Was like so proud not to be the absolute last one. Although I do have trophies at home. My first ultra, I got DFL. And that's the proudest one I've got.
That's what it's
Because
about,
I'm never out there to win the race. I'm just out there like to finish. So I set these crazy standard goals to be like, I wonder if I can. And Ironman's so repetitive with anything is possible. Anything is possible. And I really was like, I wonder if that's true. I really wonder if I can push myself to be able to complete an Ironman. And I did the first one, my first half Ironman, which was also my first triathlon ever. I had no idea what I was doing. I was at Quasi in Connecticut. It was 2019. And I'm standing there amongst maybe 3,000 other racers, and I'm the only one not in a wetsuit. So I'm wearing my bathing suit, just kind of looking around, I'm like, so I guess I was the only one that didn't think they needed a wetsuit today. Okay. And that was my first real taste of triathlon, and I did it. I finished. It was life-changing. More so, all the days that led up to that one event changed my life. Just getting into a habit of training and watching the body grow and learning what is possible. But then on the mental end, I started growing as a person, setting these 6 month, 12 months goals. And then all of a sudden time's up. Now you have to answer. Like, did you do what you were supposed to finish this? and it's been incredible. So yeah, I'm off to do it again. Second guessing my life decisions.
Yeah, and now this one's going to be, you're going to have more than yourself, which I figured, especially tackling something like that by yourself is a lot harder, especially if it's your first time doing that, like doing it by yourself in general, the mental aspect, the mental toughness to actually stick with it. And at the same time, I will say is when you are running a Ironman or something like that, there is support, like very little. Like there is little support, but there is very crucial support, I would say. Like you're out there doing it on your own, but I know especially when you don't have it like the race support, you had to rely on a couple of your friends or family to get you where you needed to go to do what you needed to do.
Yeah, and we had planned about 10 stops throughout the day where I'd be like, I'm going to be at this point of the track, meet me there. And I'd be able to get more food, get more water, stop and hang out. And it was pretty cool for that aspect because it was really personable. Like my daughter was able to see it and like experience it throughout the whole day. And whereas coming up, like she'll be behind the fence where she'll see me once or twice during the day. There's a 17-hour cutoff, so Ironman like basically shuts down the finish line at 17 hours, and that's my goal. I initially started this year with about a 15-hour goal of what I wanted to finish it in. And about 3 weeks ago, I tweaked my back. So I strained all the lumbar muscles in the right side of my back. I missed my last 2 weeks of training. Now we're in the taper, and it's been nothing but yoga and I guess, mental strengthening drills. So I've been doing a ton of audiobooks, a ton of reading, just being like, okay, if I can't physically train, I can mentally train my brain. Like my brain is what's going to get me over that finish line. I've put in tons of hours training way before I hurt my back. So I'm just like, it's that natural way, God's way of slowing me down before I overtrain, really hurt something. And now the new focus is getting there. Race day, 100%, ready to rock, and I'm feeling good. I'm in a way better mental space than I was last year when I did it, but not as good of a physical space. But I still feel pretty confident that I'll be able to finish it.
So have you read the book Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Mm-hmm.
Where it talks all about like how powerful the brain is and how they mimic surgeries for these people who couldn't walk on their knee, and they'd fake the surgery, and then they come out and the person to walk on the knee to show like how powerful the brain is that it could heal itself. Like I read that book probably a few months ago, and I was just like, as much as I've always like believed that you can be mentally strong, like I've never really dove into the aspect of like looking up information and be like, oh look, this is proof. I've always felt like if my brain could do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But reading about that stuff and having actual like information that's like proven is like pretty incredible. So it's good to see that, even though many people who are training for, whether it is a mile, whether it's a 5K marathon, whether it's a Ironman, half Ironman, an ultra, they go through that cycle of injury, and that injury is the thing that they focus on rather than, okay, I'm injured, accept the injury. Now what can I do else to prepare? And I feel like a lot of people miss that big step in it, and at Primal Path, we're always talking about like mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
If not more.
If not more, absolutely. And that's what we see is everyone's always worrying about the weight or how good they do in a workout or their weight or what their 1 rep max is or stuff like that. And they get tied up in that stuff. They're not seeing the progress because they're focused on that number. And when they hit that number, it's like, well, I could have done better. I could have done better. Rather than celebrating the small victories and understanding that like, when you hit that spot that you're going for, you could still keep on climbing. Like that's not it. It's not standing on your summit and like, I'm done. It's over. Like once you get there, you're going to be like, oh, there's a taller summit. I can reach further. And a lot of people get that into their head, or especially with the injury, and it kind of like brings them down. So that mental aspect that you're saying, like I love that you're bringing that up. It's really important. And I kind of want to translate this into a little bit about your story and how did you build that mental toughness and how did you get into ultras and triathlons and a little bit about you now, like a little bit about what you do, how you got to where you are, and I think that's a really good story.
All right, so I would say that I have become, I'd like to call it mentally tough, but I like to consider it also like a an optimist. I try to find the positive in things, and I think that has come of a lifetime of life kicking my ass, of just going through like some horrible things in life, like having, I don't even know how to put it. So I was in a motorcycle accident when I was 20. I lost basically almost all the use of my right arm. I've got a little bit of movement in my hand, but there's no bicep, no tricep, no shoulder, no chest, no back muscles. So I really just have a dead limb, with the exception that I have enough in my hands that I can hold the handlebar and use the brakes. So I can still ride a bike. Still have that need for speed problem. But growing up, I lost a best friend. 8 months later, I had another best friend murdered. Like, just went through the ringer time and time again.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New London, Connecticut. Oh. I went to St. Bernard's and had a relatively normalish childhood. Went to UConn for a year, and I made it through 3 semesters and was politely asked not to come back. And that's...
You're too good, right?
Yeah. I started drinking heavy when I was 13. And it wasn't long before I picked up a problem, but I was able to... I partied and drank for a long time, and I got sober when I was 23. While all my friends were just learning to go out and party and like experiment at life at 23, here I am like fighting for my life trying to get sober.
Wait, you were drinking heavy since 13?
I wouldn't call it heavy at 13,
well,
but I would
drink at 13. You could consider heavy, right? Like technically,
it was like the weekends, right? So every weekend, Friday and Saturday night, we're going out trying to party and trying to hang out with the older kids, or it just, for me, I guess in my group of friends, it was normal.
So. How did you get into like I had an older brother that would take me to like high school parties and stuff like that, and we'd have beers here and there and stuff like that, and just like the normal stuff, smoke weed and like have beer and stuff like that. Try those things out during high school, but I felt like in my I'm trying to see it like 13.
It was that like 8th grade year, and I remember smoking weed with one of my friends who I played hockey with. And, like, trying to tell my other friends at school about it, like, this is so awesome. He made a bong out of this plastic bottle, and I don't know what happened. We're riding the 4-wheelers. And so, at that point, I knew there was an issue because none of my friends at that point wanted anything to do with it. And then I think the transformation, that 8th grade year, going into freshman year of high school, it was a relatively small community, and we would go down to like the beach where like all the older kids would be hanging out, and it started with like bumming some beers from them, and then like you'd be stealing beer from the parents. But that towards the end of that summer, I was either on rollerblades or a bike, and I was always downtown New London riding around because I lived down by downtown in Shaw's Cove, and there's always bums walking around. Yeah. So going down and giving a bum $10 and I had like paper routes, so I was always working cutting lawns. I always had some sort of way to make money because we didn't come from money. So I was the oldest of 5 and working, but giving a bum $10 and being like, hey, get me 2 40s and keep the change, he just made his day. He's got 2 40s or one, and like, so we never had a problem getting alcohol.
That's true.
It got to the point where my junior and senior year, usually for the weekends, like, whoever could buy beer would just make a shopping list. And it was so ridiculous that it'd be like, someone wants a 6 of this and a 12 of that and a bottle of this and a bottle of that. Like, but it was normal. It was the cool thing to do. Like, we got in trouble. I got a DUI. I got in plenty of trouble, like drinking throughout like high school and college, and got tons of trouble. But it wasn't until after the motorcycle accident to where now I was trying to use it to cope all my emotional problems, and now the physical pain of having like basically a limb that was there, but the phantom pain like an amputee has. So the phantom pain was there even though the limb was still there, because the brachial plexus, the nerve group, was avulsed from the spinal cord. And it was misdiagnosed. They said it was just a stretched nerve and your arm will come back and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. And then after like a couple months, the pain just got worse, and my arm just went skinny, and it just atrophied. And at that point, I was probably weighing a little bit over 210, 215. And so it was really noticeable. Like I had some big size on my left side, but the right side was like really skinny. And the pain would keep me up for days. It would keep me up for nights. And that was when the alcohol really became dependent. I became really dependent on it. And that's where things spiraled really out of control. And my best friend Adam died in a motorcycle accident. And I remember just feeding into like the depression. And it got so deep, thinking that like, how did he die? He had a bright future. And I got this lucky. And I used to always say, oh, there's worse things than death. You could be stuck here with like a bad limb. So I was playing the victim really hard for a while. And one day I attempted suicide. I OD'd on Klonopin and my mom came home. She had a funny feeling at work. She was a teacher. She came home, found me on the couch with this picture from us, like the last time we were together, and she just knew something was wrong. She brought me to the hospital, and they pumped my stomach, and immediately they brought me from the hospital to rehab. And I was like, you know what, okay, like I'm not going to do any drugs anymore. I'm not going to drink any hard liquor. And it spiraled out of control. I got out of rehab, I started drinking again, and then I was like, this isn't going to work. One day I woke up, my car was all smashed up, I blacked out, I had no idea what happened, and I was like, I got to get help. So I reached out to my mom and my best friend, who I'm still friends with now. At the time, we're best friends now. We were just acquaintances then. I was like, I need help. I need a room. You got to send me the Natch Hog. Like, that's where I went a few months ago, but this time, like, I want to get clean. And so they sent me there, and I was basically allowed to stay as long as the insurance would pay, which was like 3 days. And I remember it being Cinco de Mayo, a Friday, and they're like, okay, your insurance is done paying, like, you're doing great. And I was like, no, it's Cinco de Mayo. Like, yo necesito cerveza. Like, no, don't let me out, please, please. And, like, I begged to stay in the cleaning closet. Like, I didn't need a bed. Like, I just didn't want to be out. And somehow, like, I got so lucky that they kept me for the weekend. And I remember I started my sober journey that Monday and went back to work. I'm driving to work in my mom's minivan. I get T-boned. Day one at 8:30 in the morning. The guy comes over. He's like, man, I just didn't see it. The sun was in my eyes. My horn's going off. Like, the car's messed up. It was my mom's only car at the time. Like, so I told her I'd be back by 3, and this guy just hit me, and this wasn't even my fault. And it took a long time before my life started getting better once I got sober. Maybe we're talking 2-3 years where it was just, my life was still a mess. I was trying, giving it my all, but it was just a mess. About 3 or 4 years later after that was when I found running. And like I said, I was terrible. I didn't really like it, but I would do it at the treadmill at Planet Fitness just to get my cardio in. And we went on a vacation, a family vacation, and this is what kind of birthed the idea of the Lefty Cycles Project. Was we were on a family vacation in Charleston, Rhode Island, and I almost relapsed. It was a really, really hard vacation. Like, I was driving around with a beer in between my legs, like, ready to drink it. And I poured it out. I remember, like, crying myself to sleep that night. My daughter was just, like, a few months old, and, like, even with, like, the greatest blessing of my life, I'm still, like, willing to throw it all away.
What age did you get married?
I got married 10 years ago. Or 9 years ago.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay. So you already went through... You already been through rehab, and then you got married, had a daughter.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to set that time frame up. Cool.
Yeah. Married, daughter, life's going great. I've had a job. Like, we have a house. Everything's good.
And then you had a little...
And we're on vacation.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, this is bullshit. This is not fair. And definitely, once again, playing the victim. I got that addiction talking. All I want to do is drink. And I know for me, like, how bad it is. If I start drinking, I know it's my death sentence. Like, the way it was, like, I know I won't recover and have like another sobriety in me. So we're going to keep it the way it's going. But that the next morning, after really, really just one of the hardest nights of 9 years of sobriety, I got up and got on a girl's bike in the garage. Rental house, it's a purple girl's bike, maybe a 10-speed, wrong size, and I start riding it around the little beach house. And it just brought a new life to me. Like, I went a half mile down and a half mile back. I was like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing in the world. Like, I can't go anymore because everything hurts, but that was the greatest thing. And then I would ride it again. And we were still there. We stayed another 3 days in Rhode Island. I kept riding that bike. I'm sure, like, people in the neighborhood are trying to figure out, like, what's this, like, weird kid doing on the girl's bike, like, riding around
right?
as it's just too small. But that birthed the idea of bringing cycling back into my life. And it took a while before it started to build momentum. I was riding. Things were going, once again, good in my life. And one of my friends, good influencer, mentor, his daughter had cancer. 20 years old, all of a sudden gets hit with cancer, and I watched it like tear the whole family apart. And over the course of a year, she fought it, did the chemo, and went through all the stress a family can go through going through the cancer. And she always did it with a smile. And there was the Smilo Closer to Free ride in New Haven, which offered a 100-mile ride. And I signed up for that. I had 53 weeks to train. I was like, I got a whole year. It's not till next year. I can ride 100 miles. And at the time, I was able to ride about 6 or 7. I had a bike that didn't really fit. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. But I thought I could do this. And that year was really when the mental toughness, the positive outlook started coming together, because we kept comparing ourselves to her. Like, oh my God, she's 20, she's got cancer, like, but she's still smiling. Like, how's dad getting through it? How's he holding it together? Like, I don't know what I would do if my baby girl had cancer. Like, my whole life would be like ripped inside. And how are they able to do it? So I started to say, like, no more bad days, just bad moments. And I say it at work. And I've had this job. This August will be 16 years. And I've been working for a recycling company. They've got a transport company, a handful of metal recycling yards and used car part yards. But working in the scrap business, and especially at this yard, which is located in Hartford, you don't know what to expect. Like, every day is an episode of reality TV in itself. Like, you could have made 100 seasons out of that place. There was a time, and there's hundreds of just normal day-to-day stuff. Like, one day a customer tried scrapping his vehicle. He drives it in the yard on the scale. It's on fire. The engine bay is on fire. It's smoking. He's like, hurry up, weigh it. Hurry up, weigh it. Weigh it. How much is it worth? Like, it's fucking on fire, bro. The car's on fucking fire. Why'd you bring it here? And, like, parks it in the middle of the yard, comes over to the office to get paid, and I'm like, no, you need a title. It's in the glove box. And you look, the whole car's engulfed at this point. And, like, employees are running around trying to put it out, and just absolute chaos day in and day out. And we had a great crew. There was never enough of us, but, like, we stuck together like a family. And I'd be on the radio in the morning saying, we got a chance of 100% chaos today, and no matter what, we're going to have a good day. We're not going to let bad moments define our day. And, like, after a while, it started catching on. And so I was like, there might be something to this. Like, maybe I can convince myself, maybe I can convince my mind that it's sunny on a rainy day, and today's the best day ever. No more bad days, best day ever. And that year was when it really started coming to fruition, where what started as a joke and one of the worst, my mental state was pretty rough at the time, like, where I hated my job, I hated going in, like, I let it eat me up, to being able to be like, oh, no, you can't pop my happiness bubble, no bad days, like, today's a good day, I don't care, it's 2 degrees out, you want me to start diesel trucks that haven't been serviced in 2 years, and you're mad they won't start, like, whatever, like, I don't know what to tell you, like, I'm not sure. And it really started playing a part in my life. And I started listening to David Goggins a lot at this point. So I'm training for the 100-miler, listening to a lot of Goggins. And the 100-mile ride came. I finished. It was an awesome milestone. It came with tons of challenges that we ended up getting over. And about a month after that, we turned the clocks back, and seasonal depression hit me like a solid kick to the gut that year, and just I didn't have that carrot to chase after.
Yeah.
I didn't have that goal, and was just like, oh no, like now I know what I have to do. Like I have to set goals, chase after them, because I'm happy while I'm chasing this goal. So like, let's set another one. And so that's what got me to sign up for the first Ironman. And I was like, what could be harder than 100 miles than trying to learn how to swim with one arm? And I was like, let me do this. So I paid the $389, something astronomical. Went outside and like almost threw up because I signed up for an Ironman. I spent like my paycheck on not bills, but 8 month away race. I remember telling my cousin and my wife and being like, all right, like, hey, my wife didn't really understand like exactly what it was going to entail, but
the training, especially the training, right?
And was just like, okay, like quietly supported me at that point. Now she full on verbally has supported me. I couldn't do it without her. Like, huge shout out to you, Sarah. Thank you. And but that's really what helped get me in the water, was listening to Goggins talk about having to swim with your feet and your hands tied up, and the stuff they went through as being SEALs and just being super uncomfortable. And I was like, okay. So I started doing research on YouTube, and there's very little out there on how to swim with one arm. Like I did find a couple videos, and that kind of set the tone, but I spent hundreds of hours in the pool just trying to develop my own one-armed front crawl. I'm still working on it. And
what is it, more like a freestyle swim?
Yeah, like a one-armed freestyle. So rather than, if we were in the pool, rather than having my chest at the bottom of the pool and coming over, I roll more to my side. So I'm coming up and then pushing, and I'm horizontal, I guess. So
you're kind of doing almost like a front stroke back. It's like almost like a backstroke on your side.
Yeah, it's like I'm on my side and I'm coming up, and it's kind of like I'll go a couple strokes before I breathe, and like so I start to slowly rock to where like my chest is straight, then I breathe and my whole side comes up. It's definitely been challenging. And I found an inner peace in the water, because it was one of those huge fears. This open water swimming is such a huge fear because you're swimming away from the comforts of the shore. And you're like, well, what happens if, and you could list anything, what happens if I get a cramp? I've been open water swimming and started throwing up, like just randomly had heartburn and started throwing up. I was like, am I going to die out here today? Like, oh my God, like, is today? And it's really crazy. It helps mind you how quick things come and go.
Yeah, and so one thing that I noticed is like people in general, like people who have addictive personality, like I know I do too. Like we go really hard onto stuff, like what like the pleasure and all like work. That's the way we work. There's no in between. It's like full send or no send at all. You know
absolutely.
What I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And, like finding that balance of making sure that you could keep your life with goals and direction that you're going, that you have a purpose, but still being able to take a break off that and totally disconnect and not resort to some other thing. Like, especially, coming back from war, dealing with all the shit in my head, I resorted to drinking and played the victim card for years, and why aren't people fixing me? And I did this thing forever, Luckily, I never never got to the point that I became an alcoholic or anything, but I was drinking a lot through all those years because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And trying to just get all my emotions, that I'm this masculine, like egotistical guy, that I'm just shoving all that stuff down, and then finally like just knowing that I have to try and get better and trying to find something and finding movement and being like, you know what, this does me better than feeling like shit when I wake up, or like are bringing me back down into that. This gives me like the endorphins that you get out of fitness and movement. And I'm like, I need to do this in my life. This needs to be part of my life, and it needs to be part of my life permanently, and I need to do this for my life, because if I don't, I'll go down a different path. And I see it with so many EOD techs too, like bomb techs that I served with. We, especially in the past 4 weeks, we've had 3 guys commit suicide. And it sucks and it's hard. And even talking about that, I've been down that road as well, where I was like, no, as long as I remember my parents will love me, it'll be good. And there was days that my life wasn't worth as much as like the thing that was going to keep me. Like my line that I said, I would never do it because of this. There's a certain time you hit in life where you're like, actually, it's not. Yeah. It's not about that. It's like I just don't want to do this anymore. And it's scary as shit. But I also know, like, I know that I'm strong enough to find help or get help. And just like you're like, hey, I need to go to freaking rehab. I need to go do this. It's the same way that I ended up walking into the VA and I go, I need an appointment right now. They're like, we're going to submit you to the hospital. And I said, fuck that. I'm not going to the fucking hospital. I just need to, like, get this shit out. Mm-hmm. And I had this huge breakdown at the VA. And after that, I go, fuck this. No one's helping me. I'm the problem. Like, I'm the one who's holding myself back. And then I just started diving into, like, mental fitness and all the things that I hear people reading, like, self-help books. And I'm like, well, you can't figure out, you need self-help. And now I'm like, I love self-help books. Yeah. Like, oh, this is really good. And there's, like, really good information. And then as much as you say no bad days, I'm always like, there is no loss. It's either win or you learn. Yeah. Like, every lesson in your life and everything that happens in life from a decision you make, like, good that it didn't go well. Like,
exactly.
Find how to make it better.
Exactly.
And the more times you fuck up, the better times, like, the better ways that you have to get over it, and the easier to accomplish it, like training in the rain, or like Goggins always talks about, like, oh, it's raining, no one wants to go and run. Is I love those days. I love those days when it's pouring down rain and I have a horrible, miserable couple-hour workout that I'm just going to torture myself with. I want the rain. I'm like, if it's going to be miserable, let it be even more miserable, because that's just going to build me tougher. It's going to distract my mind from the bullshit that I'm putting it through as well, too. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, is that if you have something miserable to do and it's a perfect day, all you're thinking about is the miserable thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
But if the weather's shitty, if all the conditions are horrible, the rest stops are shut down, they're moved, the distances is longer, the terrain is worse than you thought, like, you're just like, fuck, I got bad terrain. And as you're running or cycling or whatever it is, your brain's not like, oh, I have 15.6 miles before my rest stop. You're thinking about, like, this rain fucking sucks and this sucks. Then all of a sudden you get it done, you're like, you know what, that fucking was not bad.
I feel better.
Yeah,
I feel better.
So how did you get this, how did you build your mental toughness? And I think this is a big thing for a lot of people want to know, that they have a hard time with that. And because, like, motivation is good when you're in a good mood, right? But it doesn't work when you're miserable. So, like, how do you go about setting yourself up, especially going through all that you did? How do you do that? How do you tackle that?
So it's like anything. It comes from, like, daily practice and repetition. So I started basically with the YouTube motivational videos, which is so funny. I would just pick whatever would come up on my YouTube channel, motivational video, hit play, and, like, listen to it. And I started listening, and then I started doing some research on how, like, the human brain functions, and how I learned exactly, like, how the subconscious is really starting to control us. And so I took a step even deeper and started making attempts at programming my subconscious. So listening to pre-recorded audios, once again on YouTube, or I did the writing practices where before I go to bed or right when I woke up, I would write certain things down. So mine was always no more bad days. And the idea between that is, no matter what happens at that moment, it's not going to ruin the whole day. It's not going to ruin the whole day. And it's taken a really, really long time. And after a while of telling myself this, my subconscious started believing it. And I started seeing the results, almost like as I was watching a movie from behind. Like, I was watching myself handle problems that the prior Dylan would break down. He'd be depressed for a week. He'd be struggling. He'd fall out of rhythm. Same thing. I had a couple friends commit suicide over the last couple of years. And, like, yeah, bro, it hit so fucking deep. It hurt so bad. And trying to stay positive, like, I try to remind myself, okay, being a positive person doesn't mean you're always happy, but it knows that better days are ahead. Like, that's a quote that I stole somewhere over. I don't know who it was. I can't give credit to who it was, but that's not me. Yeah. I will not give credit as me, but that's just it. Like, knowing better days lie ahead. And I'm really grateful for it, because it's gotten me through some of my struggles, obviously with alcoholism and being a recovering addict and fighting those demons, but I've learned life is consistent kicking the balls.
Yeah.
So last month, my dad died, my biological father. He wasn't the man that raised me. I was lucky that my stepdad, Peter, raised me. So, thanks to him. But he was my biological father. And when he died, even though he was a stranger in my life for most of my life, it felt like my father died. And to go through that and to go to the wake and to have all the social anxiety and want to be faced with depression, the old me wouldn't have the mental strength and courage to go to the funeral and go to the service. And I was able to dig deep and fight those demons that said don't go, your anxiety's gonna get the best of you, nobody wants to see you, don't go. And to somehow I stuck it out. I went to the service. I went to the after party, not the after the reception, after the funeral. And this is a family that I haven't seen in about 18 years. And I left there and my cheeks hurt so bad from smiling. My soul felt full from all the love. It was out of such a terrible time. It was such an incredible connecting experience. And that was something that I'm really thankful for, having the mental strength to be able to do that. The old Dylan would have canceled with you today because my puppy's home. My puppy. I call her my puppy, right? So she's 7. Over last weekend, she lost her eyesight from last Wednesday playing with her to Sunday morning walking into the door in the garbage can. So she's on her last leg, right? So she's at home with lymphoma cancer, super aggressive cancer, and that's my fur baby, and that absolutely kills me. But I'm you know what? This is where you've got to dig down deep, and this is where you kind of gotta, no matter not necessarily bury those feelings, because I respect those feelings and the sadness and cry when the time's right to cry and mourn all the shit that we're going through with her. Because we went through it with her mom just 8 months ago. So we're going to lose 2 dogs in a year, and it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
And these are our fur babies. So, but either way, that's where the mental toughness for me comes into a life or death tool, because no matter what, life's going to keep delivering these blows.
Yeah.
The longer I live, the more blows I'm going to experience. And so I want to be able to be there so I can keep kind of pushing forward in life and with so many things, being there for the family, being there for my friends, being there for myself, and not making piss poor decisions as sometimes it feels like everything around me is falling down. So I've been on the mend for 2 weeks, which means I went from training for this Ironman anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a week of training to 2, maybe 3. So now I'm left with all this empty space, and I was what am I going to do? So I used it the best I could. I started doing more yoga. I do an hour, 2 hours a day right now of yoga just to keep my body loose. Filled with audiobooks. So I'm cranking in the audiobooks. Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy. The Obstacle is the Way was the first one when I was sidelined for a second time, and I was all right, Obstacle is the Way, I gotta listen to this again. How Bad Do You Want It was another good one. The Mental Toughness Advantage, Clydesdale. I just started going through some of the best books I have on mental toughness, trying to build the mind up, because if I can't physically train and I have to rest before this Ironman now, I'm gonna mentally do everything possible. So mentally I feel prepared, I feel ready, but I'm okay, you still have 11 days, right? Yeah, 11 days. You can build your mind stronger than what it is today to be just a little bit better. At this point, every ounce, half ounce percentage I can get, whatever I can get is huge. I put in the training, I put in the time, and now it's just kind of to put all the pieces together and hope the back handles it.
Yeah,
it'll be good.
It's the way I look at it, especially with mental toughness. You went through a lot of shit really quick, in your 20s, right? So motorcycle accident, going through rehab, relapse, you do that whole thing. That's a lot of shit that you're going to go through at a young age. Mm-hmm. I went through war and got stuck in situations where I didn't think I was coming home. moments that I was like, I guess I should find religion and pray to Jesus at this time because I feel like this is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like I'm so grateful for those times because now I'm like, you can throw anything at me. I really don't give a shit. You can't upset me. You can't make me uncomfortable no matter what you say or what you do. Got it. Cool. I mean, you can't fix that, and I think like a lot of people I'm not for people going through like not wanting people to go through traumatic events or have tough times in life. But the sooner you go through that, the sooner you learn how to build up that mental toughness to the point where sometimes people spend their entire life getting that. And finally at age 60 or 70, they're those the older people that are just like, they don't give a shit, right? They're just like, you're like, dude, you should check my grandpa out. He doesn't give a shit about anything because he's been through all the shit in life.
Goals, right? Like those are goals.
And I was like, I feel like I accomplished that in my 30s. Like I feel like I now I just don't give a shit. Like I'm like, dude, if my tire blows out on my truck, I can sit and complain and advertise that this sucks. But it's not fixing my tire. It's not helping me move on from it. I still have to fix my tire. So sitting and complaining about it is just prolonging your suffering,
exactly.
Right? Just cool. Got it. You can't magically go back and inflate the tire or something simple as that. You have to deal with it. So don't complain about it. Change the tire, move the fuck on, and then you'd be like, you know what? At least I changed a new tire. Like at least I'm on back onto the day. I always see, especially when things go wrong in someone's day at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, oh, I got into a little fender bender at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can't do my event at 5 o'clock now. They shut down. And I used to be like that as well, too.
I was the same way.
I would shut down my entire day because I was like, nope, here's my excuse. The day's ruined. I'm not doing shit.
Yep.
But I'll probably buy some beers or something like that. And it's just so toxic. Now I look at it, I'm like, yeah, well, this sucks. All right, well, what are we going to do about it? And just immediately try to fix that process. And I think that's what people need to do. And sometimes it takes a lot of fucking up. It takes a lot of, stumbles, and it takes a lot of setbacks before you could finally start processing the fact that your complaining hasn't helped you in the past. It's not going to help you again, you know? And the best way to prepare for that is movement, is doing something that gets your body to release your emotions, whether it's, and the people forget that aspect, is if you don't release your emotions, you don't work out, you're bottling everything inside, especially if it's dealing with issues that you have in your house or your, significant other, your parents, your kids, work, all those stressors. If you're just going to sleep and letting that bottle up inside and you can't talk about it, you're going down a slippery slope. That's why fitness, you get something out, you get movement, you start burning some of that stuff, and it allows you to pull some of that emotion and translate it into, into hard work, physical work to improve your body, and I think like that's one thing that like you found obviously with that and why you like to do these challenges, I would presume. But on top of that, you also created the Lefty Cycles Project. And I'd love to have you touch base on that. What is that, and what's your goal with it?
All right. So the Lefty Cycles Project is our not-for-profit, which our main things are recovery, cycling, and positivity. So I kind of took my passions and the two things that saved me, since recovery saved my life, and I feel like if I never found recovery, I'd be dead. Like I just was not going down a good road. And when my recovery really started to fail, I found cycling. And our goal is to basically help people get bicycles that are in recovery and help them improve their life for whatever reason. I believe a bicycle has the ability to change a life, whether it's for transportation, whether it's for exercise, whether it's for sport, just for leisure and fun. Like putting a bike in the right person's hands at the right time is going to change their life. And it's interesting, like, I've always believed that. But now that we're up and running, we've donated 81 bikes as of
81 bikes.
81 bikes we've been able to donate back out to the community, which is awesome, which is beyond awesome, because that has been reassuring this belief that, a bike will change a life. A bike will change a life. And we've been able to, one things we didn't see was kids' bikes, right? So we were this whole started was the idea to help people in recovery. You really don't know which way you're going to grow. You just know like things will grow. And we started getting a bunch of kids' bikes donated to us and have been able to donate a bunch of kids' bikes. And seeing kids' smiles on bikes is so awesome. We linked up with the children's clothing wardrobe out of Lebanon, and they do great things for the community, helping needy families get supplies for their kids, whether it's school supplies, clothes, backpacks, toys, playscapes. Like they do so much. And so I reached out to Rosemary and got her a handful of bikes, and she was able to get pictures of the kids on bikes. Of course, the 2 times she sent me pictures with the kids on bikes was like when I'm at an ultimate low. And like I'm ready to let that bad moment ruin my day, and I get that, and I'm like, okay, yes, that was a sign. Okay, awesome. And so we've been able to do a couple of community events, a couple sober events, both virtual and live. And in a perfect world, if money were not a restriction, we would be able to have everybody in recovery on a bicycle. And here's the interesting thing. I get asked a lot, well, what recovery? Like, you're a recovering alcoholic, so do they have to be a recovering alcoholic? And I'm like, no, see, we're all recovering for something. In my eyes, we're all recovering from something. Whether you're a drug addict, you're an alcoholic, maybe you are anorexic and you're recovering from a mental illness with your eating. Maybe you suffer PTSD because you served in the war. And no matter what, 9 out of 10 people I talk to are recovering from something extremely traumatic in their life. So it's really not that hard to convince me that you need a bicycle to help you. So that's like the thing. So that's why I say just anyone reach out. And we get a lot of recommendations, referrals from support systems. So in recovery, it's all about your support system. Who can you call and lean on in times of need? And it's amazing to see other people's support system reaching out and be like, hey, I'm so proud of so-and-so. They have X amount of days, weeks, months. Like, what do we have to do to get them a bike? And I'm like, well, is this going to be a surprise for them or not? Like, I need to know how tall they are. Do they have a helmet? And what kind of bike they're interested in. I'll go through my inventory and make it work.
You know, you said something so powerful, and it's definitely something that we talk about here in Mental Fitness at Primal Path, is that, like, that recovery is for everybody. Like, so many times people will be like, oh, you're a vet and, you know, you're disarming bombs. It must be so tough dealing with all the IEDs and, like, all this other stuff. And I'm like, my trauma is no different than anyone else's. It's just, everyone's level of trauma can get increased, and wherever you're at is going to be the most traumatic. Like, the most traumatic part in your life is going to be an entirely different level than mine, but it's going to feel the same.
Yeah, and it still affected the same parts up in the chest and in the mind.
Yeah, so we need to, you know, like, so you know, I used to let EOD and the military, like, define who I am. And I was that vet with PTSD and traumatic brain injuries, and that's who I was. Mm-hmm. And that's who I thought I was. And I realized, I'm like, no, I'm a human that was a part of my life. That was like, you know, just like high school, you don't call yourself a high schooler anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That was a part of my life that I'm proud of, but it doesn't define me. I'm showing that I can go through all this stuff and provide positivity that can relate to anyone, whether you're a person who's recovering from, like you said, it doesn't have to be so traumatic as like domestic abuse or alcoholism or drug abuse or anything like that. It could be just the simple days of life of going through a divorce, or just, you know, going through, you know, something traumatic in your life that's not seems as traumatic as what we label as like the levels of how hard your life is. But all those things and being able to recover from them, they're all the same. Like, us sitting down talking, having 2 different backgrounds, but we're still preaching the same message. We're still trying to promote this stuff of, like, you can find a way out of it. We have. And if not, like, use your example, or like the stuff you went through, or how you looked up to your friend's little girl, right? And you're like, as much as trauma you went through, you're like, no, this girl's happy and stuff like that. And it's the same way that I looked at, like, I would go to Afghanistan and Iraq, and I see these kids smiling, and they're covered in dirt, and they're walking 3 miles for water and herding sheep at 2. And I'm like, why the fuck are these kids so positive? Like, how is it possible that they're living in these conditions and not? And I go, the problem is us. It's us. It's us.
The mind
it's the way that our environment that we live in, the way America is, the way that we don't really appreciate all the little small things. And the second that you stop and appreciate the small things of being able to drink water out of your water bottle, like, and not be like, I wonder how to get water. Like, those little things that we take for granted.
Every day.
And the things that you take for granted are shut the power off for 3 days in your house. See what the priority becomes. Because immediately it's the internet. It's like, where's my internet, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, where's my power? Eversource sucks. Where's my power? I need it back. That's the first couple hours. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can't really flush my toilet anymore because I already did that. Well, I need water. But they're all sold out at the grocery stores. Now I go to a gas station. So sold out at the gas stations.
There's
now
power at the gas station, no gas.
You like all these little things now that you're realizing, like, oh no, I need to start, saving water. I need to start like understanding what the priorities in life. Why do I have candles in my house? And once you realize that the small things are so important, that these big things really they're not a big thing, right?
Yeah.
They just bounce off you and continue on. So I really think that it's awesome that you guys are doing that too, not just for like something that you went through, but for anybody who's recovering and deserves like recognition for getting through something tough or being successful or yeah, exactly.
Just because no matter what, we're gonna fail at what we try in life, and unfortunately, relapse is a huge part of people's recovery. They fuck up, and then they got to start over. But you got to try. You can't be afraid of the failure. You got to go for the try.
So you also brought a sweet little goodie bag for us, which was pretty awesome, including the Lefty Cycles hat. Which this hat, like I said, man, it is. I want to order some Primal Path hats from this company. These are quality freaking hats, dude. I love that.
They're right in Colorado. It's Boco. I have no affiliation with them other than they treated me really well as a customer. And I was one of those pain in the ass first time customers where like, I only want 50, and they're like, okay, X amount of dollars for 50. And then like we agreed, like their designers like gave me a template, and like I was like, well, I like these colors and those colors, and then they're finally like, okay, do you like this? Sure. All right, sign here. Perfect. 2 days later, can we go with 100?
I'm usually like that too, man.
And so they did really great, and we've been really lucky. We've gotten some awesome supporters with the Lefty Cycles Project. A lot of family and friends. We've had a ton of internet support, so we've been able to get some pretty big donations, and we've been sending them out as like VIP thank yous. Like, thank you so much. And we're gonna do another run this year because they're just, you can't kill them.
Yeah, man. We'll throw them in here. We'll put them for sale too. So what do you got in here? This is pretty sweet. I like this.
So we came up with a really simple idea of spreading positivity. Got a cowbell. So the idea is it's a chalk and cheer project. You take the cowbell, you keep it with you in your car. You see someone running, walking, doing yard work, be that person that's cheering them on. And we put some sidewalk chalk in there because we want you to spread positivity. Super easy and cheap to do. You're right with sidewalk chalk, something positive in front of your friends, your loved ones, house, business, driveway. But you got this. No more bad days. You're strong enough. You're doing good enough. Whatever you want to do. And what's awesome is you're able to make somebody's day for less than $1 in 2 minutes. And we've been at it with the sidewalk chalk, trying to graffiti people's houses.
It's a really good idea.
It's really awesome. It really is awesome.
Yeah, just a couple words right there. That's awesome. Have these sweet stickers on top of that too. Yeah, these are really cool, man. I really like this stuff. And you also threw in Yogi and Life in Colorado.
Yeah. So Yoga and Life is an awesome company that I was lucky enough to be. I'm one of their 13 ambassadors, and tons of stuff, obviously yoga and life, obviously tons of yoga stuff, but then they hit on every other aspect that helps our lives better. Like you're saying, tons of moving. The whole idea is to get more people moving in whatever manner they like. So the same way our physical appearances are different, I believe our recoveries are different. So if we all have something we're recovering from, but we all look different. All of our recoveries look different. That means that whatever you're going to pick on your recovery is going to be different than mine. But as long as you're moving, and then if you can tie that moving into something you enjoy, now it's the best of both worlds. Now you enjoy what you're doing and you're benefiting yourself. And I think the only way to have a strong mind is to have a strong body. They kind of go hand in hand. It's
Absolutely.
it's like fruit. Like a fruit's not going to have a beautiful looking peel and then a brown, like for a banana, brown peel and a beautiful banana inside, or mismatch. It's not going to be.
It's a really good point.
And so like the brain and the body kind of got to go hand in hand. But when those two are in harmony, it's a very surreal superpower feeling that I'm hoping to get one day.
Yeah, I totally connect with your message, man. I love what you're doing, honestly. You know, how can we get in touch with you for how we get in touch with Lefty Cycles?
Right.
And if people want to either donate bikes, money, or, you know, just reach out because they got somebody to celebrate.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Best way is email, which is Dylan@theleftycyclesproject.org. So Dylan, DYLAN, at theleftycyclesproject.org. We're on Facebook, Instagram. The website is live and amazing, if I might add, which is theleftycyclesproject.org. We're an official 501c3. We got that as of February. Email me for any bike pickups or drop-off donations. At the moment, we're accepting almost everything. It has to be a really ugly bike that's been forgotten about for me to say no, because we're utilizing a lot of parts. So right now we're salvaging everything. So we're saying yes to everything. Bike parts, if you have bike parts, helmets. We need helmets because we believe everybody needs a helmet. Helmet saved my life like 3 times in this lifetime, so we got to make sure everyone's on a helmet. And if you want to donate, you can donate right through PayPal on the website. It's right connected to PayPal. You can mail a check, which address is on the website also. We're looking to do some awesome things this October. Looking to do a group ride between the 2 airline cycle shop, one in East Hampton and the other one in Colchester. So that would be awesome to get a bunch of volunteers and a bunch of riders, anywhere from 2 miles to 28. You get to pick your distance. So if you're not an everyday rider and you just want to come ride 2 miles without cars on the road, because it's a beautiful airline trail, and cook out, we're going to celebrate positivity, recovery, and cycling that day. So it's going to be awesome. And yeah, the other thing is, if you know somebody in recovery that needs a bicycle, please reach out to the email, because I still have bikes in the inventory that need to be rehomed. We still have bikes that need to do their duty and save a life. So we want to hear those success stories. We want to hear how people have used whatever tool it is to recover. You know, the more I can learn about recovery, the more I feel I'll be able to share with my recovering circle, my recovering family, support system, and we're stronger together. So it's more about like coming together to help each other out.
Yeah, you know, I was never a big fan of like group therapy sessions. Some that works great for some people. Didn't really work. I couldn't stand them. I just always felt like it was like a bigger dick contest of like whose trauma was bigger. And like I said, this is for me. Group therapy works great for some people. I'm just saying for me. And I'm like, I'm not sitting here to go and tell my stories in front of this and singing Kumbaya. And it just didn't work for me. Yep. And I went the individual way. And I find like that didn't work, you know, but reality was me not finding the way that it worked. And what I found out is, instead of this, let's go sit down at this time and talk about it and have this therapy, just getting together with people that are all going through that similar process of trying to recover, kind of even individually, but you can still come together as a group. Yeah. So it's like a group therapy. There's no therapy, but the therapy is the group.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I find it's the way that I look at it. It's the way that, you know, it's a way of getting people together, because that community and sharing that time and that mindset with other people that are like-minded is the therapy that we need, even though we don't call it therapy. Just
that's
get
when you
together
know
and
you're
go
with
get
the
out.
right
Yeah.
tribe. You're with the right
Yeah.
people, right? Like that's when you know it's all good.
Yeah. So I know you have no more bad days, but what is something besides that? Excuse me. Besides that, what is something you can tell our listeners that they could do today to help change their life for the better? Whether it's a motto you live by, whether it's something, a lesson you learned, something for our listeners to do that they could do today.
All right, we'll do 2 things. One is the easiest. It's something that's going to cost you $0 and take 2 seconds of your day. But if you see somebody without a smile, share yours with them. So this is something that was really powerful for me at some of my lowest times, having random people smile at me. Like, I still remember that random smile when I needed it. I didn't do anything to earn it. I didn't ask for it, but somebody randomly saw I didn't have a smile and smiled. And like, it's incredible how we don't know what other people are going through and how a simple smile will change their day. And then the other thing is kind of take a quick evaluation of what your diet is. And that's not so much necessarily on food and drink, which is a big part, but what are we putting in our minds? Like, take a quick look at what's some of the information that we're putting in our mind and see if we can schedule out 5-10 minutes a day to put something positive in our mind, to listen to positive affirmations and to start to slowly change that daily diet of information that goes in our ears. Whether you're paying attention or not, the subconscious is picking it up. So definitely to set ourselves up for happiness in the future and better thinking, it starts with just 5 minutes of changing that diet, 5 minutes a day, starting to taking good, and then it's going to snowball effect. You're going to want a little bit more and a little bit more. And now you're listening to it the whole way to work and the whole way home. And next month you're telling your friends who's a great speaker or what awesome message you picked. And it's going to spread, man. The same way negativity is contagious, so is positivity. So I think we just got to spread it.
And I think it's the positivity starts. You'll find the people that are positive around you real quick when you become positive.
Yeah.
Because you could be like, well, most of my friends are miserable. Well, because you're miserable too. Mm-hmm. What you find is as soon as you start changing your mindset to be positive, your miserable friends don't have time for a positive person. And then all the positive people that you may not have hung out with in a while or reaching out, all of a sudden start reaching out. And it grows. So whatever mindset you're in, or you think that I'm not around positive people, it's because your brain is not thinking positive. You change that mindset, like you're saying, and then you're going to attract a different crowd. And when you get that positive crowd, it is life-changing, because the second that you feel depressed, or the second that we all will still fall down into that valley, we'll always go down there. You know, no one is perfect. You can't be permanently happy. Mm-hmm. But when we go down there, those positive friends are there to give you that smile, to pick you up. And they're there to just really support you, and they'll see and they'll make it light of it. And I find, like, when you're miserable and you're going through like something tough, people are always like, oh, you're right, it's horrible. I feel so bad for you. And I feel like when you get into a positive group, they're like, yeah, that does suck. Let's go do this.
Yep.
They're not there to help kind of like stir on that problem that you're dealing with. They're there to be like, cool, like, yeah, that sounds like hard, but let's get your mind going. Mm-hmm. You know, when you get hit by a baseball in a little league, you know, the coach wants to get you right back up there, right?
Yep.
It's that lesson. It's the same thing. You know, the first time you get blown up in a vehicle, your team leader will be like, they'll be like, you're going, your unit's out. We're pushing you right back out. And you're like, I don't want to go out. We just freaking got hit.
Yeah.
You know what? That's it's the same way. You fall down, you get up. You know, you get hurt, push through it. You know, whether you want to go to the extreme level of David Goggins, of just like literally murdering his body, and there's few people who can do it to the level that he does, or whether it's a simple thing of falling down and scraping your elbow and telling your little kid to like get back up, walk around, you know, don't sit there and cry. It still works fluidly throughout the life. So I really love that message, Dylan, that you're putting out there. I love that that 10 minutes or that 5 minutes of digesting that good positivity into that mind as a diet, man.
It really just this is what I've just learned as a simple human over, like I said, life started really dishing it out. And once I started changing what was coming in the mind, started slowly changing the thoughts, and then the life started to change too. And it doesn't mean things are perfect. And like I explained, it's still a rough road, but we definitely have control. We have more control than we think. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because when I was playing the victim, I had no control. I'm the victim, right? Like, my arm doesn't work. I got robbed. How am I going to be happy in life? How am I going to be a father in life? How am I going to, do all these things in life because I'm the victim and poor me, like all this bad stuff happened. But once I was able to accept it and take responsibility, things started changing. And I think, like you mentioned it earlier, the whole kind of thing about acceptance is in how, like, releasing it is. Once you accept that this is where we are, nothing we can do behind us will change it, but we're from here forward, we're in control from here forward. How we handle everything that is, this is it. Well, you can either cry about it or fix problems. Like, the longer you cry about it, the less time you have fixing problems. So
you either dwell on the past or you remember the past.
Yeah.
I like to remember the past.
Try to learn the lessons if we can. If not, we have to do it again.
I've dwelled on it
3 times.
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, at least. You know, it's all right though. You're like, well, I also learned another way not to do it. You know, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dylan, for jumping on this this vlog podcast and a little bit of everything. This has been
awesome, man. I've been listening to him for a long time, so being here is such an honor.
Well, thank you. And in October, man, you let us know about those dates too, because we'd obviously like to come support. I dragged some of my tribe members out last year. Got them to break out their bikes, and we went on an airline trail. And
okay,
you know, I got them out there. We had a handful of us, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, riding a bike is so good." And honestly, if you haven't ridden a bike in a while, just get on one, drive in your driveway, feeling the air hit you and the freedom, you become like this smiling little kid again. It
changes everything.
It is. Remember that we push that too. Is we gotta play as an adult. Mm-hmm. And a good way to play is getting back on a bicycle, even if you haven't been on. I don't care. Throw some training wheels on the bike. It doesn't really matter, but it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. Go experience life, and
see where it takes you.
Yeah.
See, I've had a bike take me all over the place, and it's interesting when you just go and get lost, right? Like, you're like, I drive to work the same way for years, but I've never made a right down this road. I wonder what's down it. And I live in Lebanon, so it's beautiful. When I get lost, I'm lost for a while. So that's awesome.
Well, hope you guys get a bike. Go support Lefty Cycles. Go check them out. And we'll talk to you soon, Tribe.